Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio, your global feel good radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Now, our guest today is Meir Schneider. Meir Schneider is a world famous expert in natural vision improvement and the author of many books. You can find out more about Meir Schneider and his wonderful work at selfhealing.org. And when you look it up on the internet, there's a little dash between self and healing.org. Welcome, Meir Schneider.
Thank you for having me on your wonderful show.
So, Meir Schneider, I'm so happy to have you. You've always been one of my heroes. And because you were born blind in the Ukraine, and through using vision exercises, you can now see again. So we're going to be talking with you about the principles of natural vision improvement. How many surgeries did you have growing up before you found out about eye exercises?
Between the ages of 4 and 7, I had 5 cataract surgeries, which were very unsuccessful for 2 reasons. It was discovered many years later with biological experiments that the time to do the surgery is 2 weeks of age and not 4 years of age. And because they did not understand why they succeeded so well with people who were adults. In that time, adults were wearing cataract glasses. They were thick glasses before there were contact lenses. And of course, later on, the implant. But they didn't understand why they would simply remove a lens of an adult, and with glasses, the adult would see well, while the infant who was born with cataract, if they removed the lens at the age of 4, would not see. So they made experimental surgeries on my eyes, and they removed parts of the lens. The rest became scar tissue and all kinds of membranes. And the result is that one cataract, which is opacity of the lens, was replaced by another kind of cataract. And the other kind of cataract is basically the scar tissue. So I didn't have the correct brain development that you and most of the audience have, in that the brain did not evolve with time. At the age of 8 weeks, you start to look. At the age of 9 months, your vision becomes pretty good as you lift your head and start to crawl. And when you start to walk, your vision is better than 20/20 without glasses or anything of that nature. What happened to me is that I missed all that evolution and have a scar tissue. So I was reading Braille, and I had 1% vision. And in fact, I was the quickest Braille reader in the state of Israel. My parents were deaf, so they had their world. I could not learn sign language, so they had to read my lips. And I would understand them up to a certain point. And so my world was the world of books, and I would read day and night, basically. But when I discovered the existence of eye exercises, which could be easily physical therapy for the eyes, but more sophisticated than regular physiotherapy, because it also involves the brain and the mind. And so when I discovered that, and I started to work, I worked 13 hours a day, sometimes even 16, and kept focusing on my vision, and my vision slowly and in some ways fast improved. I'm saying slowly in that it didn't jump to be what it became years later. But I used to have 1% vision and 4% with glasses. And within 2.5 months, my vision was 4%. And then glasses stopped correcting it. And the glasses I had were very, very thick. And within, I would say, a period of 4 years, I had 20% vision. Now I have 70% vision. I have a driver's license for 36 years already, and it's unrestricted. Doesn't mean I don't restrict myself. I mean, I try not to drive at night unless I have to. I drive in the middle lane. You won't see me changing lanes and being upset that somebody is too slow. If he's slow, I'll drive behind him. I do all those things because I think the big achievement was the fact that I can drive. I don't need to be a fast driver, but I'm so happy that I can do that.
That's an amazing story. Now, Meir Schneider, you're known worldwide for your work in natural vision improvement. What are the basic principles of natural vision improvement?
This is very important because the modern world is really the reason why people wear glasses. I mean, I was born with my condition, but other people developed it. And the proof to it is that if you go to primitive societies, or I shouldn't call them primitive, more natural societies, they don't have nearly the amount of nearsightedness that we have. For example, Brazil, a country I go to quite often, if you go to the Amazon, 1% of them are nearsighted. 1%. You go to Sao Paulo, 48%. So the difference is huge, and that's not the most. I mean, the most nearsightedness we have is in South Korea with 96.5%. But while in Hong Kong you have 80% nearsightedness, in rural Tibet you have 3%. What's the difference? The difference is that we look too early in life at computers and at smartphones. And in my generation, too early in life at books, day and night. And before you know, when you look at that computer, when you look at that smartphone, you forget there is periphery. And even when I teach people in the internet, as this is what I'm doing these days with the isolation, even when I teach people in the internet, I tell them, look out of the window, take a break from the show that you have and look out of the window. And it's such a relief to the eyes. So the problem is visual habits. So the 9 principles come to get us new visual habits that will improve our vision, reduce the dependency on glasses, and eliminate most eye conditions from glaucoma to macular degeneration to cataracts. And here they are. First of all, deep relaxation of the eyes. The eye of a modern person is extremely stressed, whether we know it or not. So relaxing the eyes is the first condition. Now, the exercise I love to show, which is a classic exercise that is in the Bates method, is that we rub the hands and put the hands around the eye orbits. And that works in the majority of times. But sometimes it doesn't.
Interrupt for our audience. That's called palming.
Right.
So palming is you rub your hands together and you play. If you're wearing glasses, you take your glasses off and you put your hands directly over your eyes, palming.
Over the cheekbones and the forehead, so around the eye orbits. And you never put pressure, and you spend 6 minutes breathing, thinking, inhaling to the count of 4, exhaling to the count of 7. And you do it 3 or 4 times a day, can make a big difference in your life. The second principle is adaptation to different light amplitude and frequencies. And that is so important to adapt to light. What the medical profession tells us is escape light. And the sun has such healing energy behind it. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't be moderate about it, because people do suffer from over sun exposure. But on the other end, don't escape it. So, for example, if for 20 minutes we close our eyes and we move our head from side to side, all the way to where we don't anymore see the sun, where it with the eyes closed, where it's dark. So we move 180 degrees. We slowly strengthen our pupils and adapt to the sun. We wake up our macula. We help our immune system. We also help big time our emotional system. Where is there more depression? In the northern countries or in the southern countries? And I think in the northern countries where there is no light and no sun. On the other end, we don't have enough night. I think that one of the problems of many people in big cities, and that affects their immune system to the worst, and now with the coronavirus, we need a strong immune system, is the fact that if you look at New York, it's a city that never goes to sleep. So you always have light at night. At night, we should have darkness. There's so many fewer places these days that you can look at the stars because we basically eliminated the night. So being able to adapt to the dark of the night is very, very important. And so I suggest for people to not keep light in the hole and to learn their way to the loo without the light if they can, and to adapt to the dark of the night. The third principle is detail viewing. We don't even know how many details we miss, but the main thing is we have to understand that we need to look from detail to detail, because the most important part of the retina is called the macula. And people probably heard the term macular degeneration. And physicians don't know what to do with it, truly. They help it if it's humid, and they stop the blood from destroying the cells for 5 years, but then the person becomes blind again. So the point is, learn to look at details. Just think of the whole world as a museum and look at every detail you can. And then the fourth principle is distance viewing. We used to be hunters, and right now we are computer viewers. And what happens is we don't look enough at the distance. And the muscles of the lens, but the whole eye adapts to the distance. The muscles of the lens relax and stretch, but also not looking enough at the distance creates a situation where there is fluid accumulating in the vitreous area and lengthens the eye. And so that's the main reasons for myopia, and is the main reasons for cataracts. If you don't look enough at the distance, most likely you will develop a cataract sooner or later, because your lens doesn't have the flexibility and the mobility. And that's why everybody owes to him or herself to look at distance for 20 minutes a day, every day, between 4 and 6 minutes per interval. Then the fifth principle is peripheral vision. I can't emphasize enough how much we need it, especially when you see all those people walking in the street with an iPhone and, or I should say smartphone, and look at their phone and forget that the rest of the world exists, sometimes bump into people. And that is so bad for the eyes. It's mainly the reason for glaucoma, because you suppress the activity of the rods of the retina. And there's a big problem there. And the sixth principle is balanced use of the eyes. The more we strain the eyes, the more there's one eye that wins and one eye that loses in the brain. And so if we create balance between them, we can make all the difference in the world. And we have many exercises like obstructing the view of one eye to get the weak eye to work, obstructing the work of the two eyes together to get them to work apart, all kinds of exercise of eye teaming. It's wonderful. People feel, A, their vision is better, and B, looking is so much easier. Just imagine any audience that you stand on one leg. How long can you do it before you develop stress? Well, we don't pay attention to it, but we stress our stronger eye a lot. And we also stress all the pathways to the brain. And then the next principle is balance use within each eye, because quite often we don't use all the parts of the eyes equally. And balance is true systemic strength, whether it is your visual system or vascular system, muscular system, nervous system. We need to create balance in the body if we want to have strength. And then the next principle is body and eye coordination. And I'll never forget the person who lost 85% of his field of vision because he took the option of a voluntary heart surgery that he did not actually need, got a stroke of his optic nerve. And when I got him on a trampoline and got him to respond by his body, like sitting when he saw an arrow pointing down, jumping on his knees when he saw an arrow going up, moving to the left and clapping his hand, moving to the right and moving his arms in rotating motion. So respond with his body on top of many other exercises we did. His field of vision improved to nearly 90%. in spite of the damage of the optic nerve. And then the last but not least is more blood flow to the visual system. Because I think if you take a look of most blindness, they are a result of poor blood flow to the visual system. So it's very clear why when you have humid macular degeneration, means that the blood basically floods your photoreceptors. You don't have enough blood flow because there's not enough blood coming, so you create capillaries. They're not perfect, so they flood. So the doctors destroy those capillaries, but then they will be created again and again and again. And each time they destroy them, they create mild scar. Thank God they don't do what they did in the past, which is laser on those particular capillaries, which basically destroyed part of the macula. But it is not clear to most people that if you have glaucoma, a big part of it isn't just your pressure. First of all, the pressure comes because not enough blood comes to the eye. And then the eye starts to accumulate pressure. But then the second thing is there isn't enough circulation to the optic nerve. The only solution is loose neck and more blood flow to the head. So those 9 principles, if followed, can improve practically anyone's vision. The extent is different from person to person.
That's a very exciting story. And of course, by now, how many years do you have? 50 years of experience in natural vision? How many years?
48.
48. I was close. 40. Oh, only 48 years experience. Okay, very impressive. Now, Meir Schneider, a world famous expert in natural vision improvement, if someone's listening to you and said, okay, I realize that I need to improve my eyes, how much time every day does a person need to devote to this?
So it depends what you want to accomplish. If you want to accomplish just not having stress in front of the computer, all you need to devote is about half an hour a day. You look at the distance, you rest your eyes, and your stress will decrease. If you want to improve your vision to the extent that you will need less correction or no correction, at that point, I would suggest you do 2 or 3 hours. There's no better time than now. You're at home, unfortunately, not for a good reason. But why won't you make the best out of it and get rid of your glasses? You can get my book, Vision for Life, and the DVD Vision for Life. You can get my book, Awakening Your Power of Self-Healing, Movement for Self-Healing. And you can also attend our webinars. It doesn't matter if you're in England or in the United States or in Germany or in Colombia. People join me from all parts of the world in different times of their day. I even intend to do a webinar with Germany, which will make me awake part of the night here.
Right.
I want to say that basically we need to spend time on ourselves positively. Now it's a good time for you to improve your vision.
Right. So 30 minutes a day of vision exercises to have less stress in front of the computer, and 2 to 3 hours a day to actually improve your eyesight.
Exactly.
Now, I know that for myself, I'm 61 now, and I didn't wear glasses until my early 50s. And what happened to me was I was writing books. And so I was spending lots and lots of time on the computer writing books. As a matter of fact, when I was writing my book, Unlimited Energy Now, I started getting migraines. And my brother is an ophthalmologist, and I finally I would get to the point where I literally couldn't write because I would get a horrible migraine. I'd feel nauseous and completely shut down. So that was when I started wearing glasses, was writing books. And I've written a total of 10 books, which involve a lot of time on the computer. So if someone does spend a lot of time on their computer for their work, what sort of recommendations do you have for somebody who's spending a lot of time on the computer?
First of all, take breaks. Look at the distance. The break should not just be not working on the computer, but the break should be that you take your glasses off. And by the way, congratulations that you didn't have glasses until your 50s. That's wonderful. And that's great, because so many people start to wear glasses in their teen and others in their 40s. And the fact it took you until your 50s That's a big deal. The second thing is look at the distance and wave your hands to the side. Why wave your hands to the side? Because then you're going to have a sense of your periphery, because the computer basically blocks your periphery. Another one is every 10 minutes, look for 15 seconds away from the computer. And another one is from time to time, cover one eye and wave your hand to the side of the other eye and up and down all the way as you look straight. And you do the same thing in both eyes, and you wave your hand around and you take away the stress of looking only at the computer, because often when you're interested in your contents, what happens is, before you know, there's no ceiling, there's no floor, there are no walls. And other thing that happens is intellectual stress in front of the computer, intellectual development in front of the computer means visual stress. Why? You start to not care whether your eyes are tired or not. You have a book to write. And I know what it takes to write a book. It's no end. It's no end. It's like you think you finished and you feel that you didn't even start. So you continue and continue and continue, and you don't have any deadlines in front of you. You just work and work and work, and then there's a deadline, and now you work even harder, and the result is you don't pay attention to your periphery. And so what I'm saying is that's one of the reasons that our school is by the beach. I remember taking my last 6-day class in February, early February, to the beach, looking at the waves. You have no idea how much the eyes relaxed when they had something so interesting to look at. Waves, surfers, boats, and they could think about nothing but looking at a distance. And guess what? The reading on the eye chart improved exponentially because the brain was attracted to the distance. And before you know, when you look at so many letters and you try to read them as fast as you want, you stop paying attention to your central vision. You stop paying attention to details one by one. You only pay attention to contents. Yes, you pay attention to the details in your book, but you don't pay attention to the print as much as you would to choreography. And again, let me repeat what I said. The whole world is a museum. I'm looking at the pictures in your room. I'm looking at myself at the screen. I'm looking at your beautiful face in the screen, at everything, you know? And basically, that is, I look at all the details. I'm looking at my room at different details that exist. That is so important. Get your eyes out of the computer often. Then go back and you'll be more energized. For your 11th book, you'll be more energized looking at the book as you write it. Now, because you rested.
So would you have a recommendation for people who do work on the computer? So in any given 60-minute time period where they're on the computer, how much time do they need to spend away from the computer to protect their eyes and keep their eyes from getting worse?
First of all, every 10 minutes, 15 seconds rest. And the rest could be with a nice exercise called long swing, where you stand up, you look at your finger, and you move from side to side 2 or 3 times. You think the whole room moves opposite than you. You sit down in front of a computer, refresh for the next 10 minutes. Then from time to time, you do the peripheral that I said. You cover one eye and you wave with the hand to the other. Then after 10 minutes, you look at the distance for 15 seconds. Every hour, get out of the computer. Spend 6 minutes doing something else. And my big recommendation is take your glasses off. And if you have lenses, and if it's easy for you to take them off, take your lenses off if you can. If you can't, then you can't. And look at the distance. And if you sit in a cube, see if you can walk out to the corridor. If you don't sit in a cube, you're working from home, as many people do, and especially these days. Walk out of the computer, look at your balcony, open your window, look at the distance. Everybody has sky, even if your distance is not so interesting. But then some people have trees. I would suggest, first of all, for no one to sit on a chair for more than 2 hours at a time in the first place. And if you can, after 2 hours, take a nice walk, forget what you did. Don't think about what you did. Don't think about what's in front of you. Don't think about your document. Go and forget it. And take a nice 10 minutes walk where you can breathe fresh air. and then from time to time stop and look at the beauty of the world around you, you return to your work. And just because you didn't continue, you're fresh, new ideas come, new energy come, and you can finish your document much better.
Now, what about people who spend a lot of time on their iPhone? Because as you said, a lot of times you can go in any urban center, you can walk in London or New York or Tokyo, and people are literally walking down the street staring at their phone.
So one thing I recommend is wave your hand to the side from time to time and wiggle your fingers so you can have a sense of the periphery. Take your eyes off the phone from time to time. See the world around you. I remember actually, my home is not far from here. So I took a 15 minutes walk from my home to the school to speak with you. And I was engaged in a conversation and even look, I said, you know what? Now I want to stop talking. So I will prepare myself to the show. How do I prepare myself to the show? Not with details, they're already in me, but through relaxation. And looking around and relaxing is so important, especially these days, but throughout your whole life.
Now, how can a person tell whether or not their eyes are stressed?
Oh, that's the problem. People can't tell. They can't tell because they live within that stress. So as soon as they start to do eye exercises, then they can feel their stress. You know, you don't know you had a bad diet till you have a good one, right? And you don't know that you are stressed if you live within your stress. You only know that you have an eye pathology, glaucoma, cataract, macular degeneration, retinal detachment, where the specialist sees you and tries to fix a problem you have. That's why it's so important right now, and I'm so happy that you have so many audience and they can hear that. It's so important right now to work on your eyes. So for example, the first exercise I was talking about, which is palming, is to rub the hands, put the hands around the eye orbits very, very gently and relax. You know, it's interesting that when I palm, and sometimes I palm, don't fall from your chair. There was one time I palmed 11 hours. Yeah. And I did not even know that I'm palming 11 hours. There was another person with me who was a very strong meditator, and we both palmed. And we only knew when we finished that it was 11 hours. And what happens in the first half hour, you feel great relaxation. And then you feel dryness and you feel stress. You start to feel deep layers of tension that exist in the eyes you know nothing about. By the way, it's true about the rest of the body too. When I massage someone, I loosen them up and then they feel the stress. It's like every human being is like an onion. You peel a layer and you cry more over the next layer. So what happens is after 2 hours, there's relaxation, then there's more stress, and then there's great relaxation. By the way, after that pounding, I was able to pass my driver's license. And I am somebody who his parents were admonished for not giving him immediately a seeing eye dog and a cane. So I am, many people made jokes of me saying that, hey, the bumps on the roads are braille for blind drivers, yeah? And, but I picked them up from the airport by now and everything is okay. But what I'm saying is, it's a big deal to rest the eyes. People don't understand how stressed they are. Another thing, if you look at the distance, the sense of relief is going to be dramatic. I had a session with a 21-year-old, and he is looking at the computer completely. He doesn't understand what his problem. All he has is 6 diopters. I told him, you know, 2 more diopters, and you're going to have a long eyeball, which is considered to be high myopia, which is dangerous. That leads to retinal detachments and many other problems. So a week ago, his mom, who wanted to bring him here, but we decided to do a Skype instead of meeting him for all the obvious reasons. I started to teach him peripheral exercise to block his central vision and wave his hand to the side, to look at the distance out of his window, to throw the ball from side to side while covering his nose and separating the 2 eyes. And when he finished, he said, wow, my eye feels so relaxed, so stretched. But when I asked him in the beginning of the session, how do your eyes feel? He said, good. So the point is, you don't know how stress, and he's 21, right? Well, what's going to happen to him when he's 45? I mean, you start to wear glasses in your 50s. I'll tell you something. I think that unfortunately, many people in the 60s have cataracts these days. And all the doctors do, they remove the lens. They don't really fix the cataract. They don't prevent it. Again, you prevent it by resting the eyes and looking at a distance. But doctors don't do that. They tell you, oh, your lens is opaque, we'll remove it, put another thing inside. I tell you, there's so many problems that can come with it. Sometimes it's great and sometimes it's not. And even when it's great, it's not necessarily great 2 or 3 years later. But what happens is, I believe that people, within 5 years, people in their 40s will have the same problems that people these days have in the 60s and 70s. And unfortunately, if we don't change things, and too bad the whole world doesn't listen to your show because it should, in about 20 years, I would say 30-year-old will have it, and about 40 years, 20-year-olds will have it. We have to stop what we're doing. Just like people learned that they cannot take medication against stiffness. Mm-hmm. You need to undo your stiffness. You cannot take medications against poor blood flow. You need to do some cardio. And in my case, you need to do release of the body, kinesthetic awareness, kinesthetic movement of the body. People understand some of it, not all of it, but they understand that. People don't get it. If you don't work on your eyes, you're asking for problems and generational problems. Worse than the coronavirus. Because just think what's going to happen when so many people will get blind in their early 50s. Think what's going to happen to the world and to their families. And those are people who could have good vision for the rest of their life. Because some people wrote science papers in their 80s and could see well. And some people can see well and don't even need glasses in the early hundreds. I know that because I met them. But then these days, when you need glasses when you're 12, you don't do anything about it, and you continue, and your nearsightedness becomes worse. And by the way, laser surgery or LASIK is the worst thing you can do because you shave part of your cornea. Contact lenses are really bad for you because the immune system should reject any foreign object, and you get used to them by weakening the immune system. And glasses are not the best thing for you either because you have one focal point you look through, and you narrow your periphery and you narrow the vision that comes to you. I'm not saying don't wear glasses. If you need to drive and you have to put them on, do it. If you strain without them, put them on. But work on improving your vision so you don't need them. And put them in the pocket as long as you don't need them.
Now, this is just really valuable information, Meir Schneider. Now, someone listening to our show might think, well, this is all well and good, but I don't have an extra 2 or 3 hours a day. How can these vision exercises that you're talking about benefit us in other ways, in addition to our eyes? Give us more reasons, as if preserving our vision isn't enough. But how else do these eye exercises benefit us?
So first of all, let me answer that person and say you can divide the exercises throughout the day. You can do 15 minutes here, 5 minutes there. You don't have any more lost time. You're in a queue to the bank Versateller. Well, look at the distance. You're in a queue to your bus. Look at the distance. So you don't lose time anymore. You are outdoors, do some sunning and relax. But the thing that I could say is this. The whole nervous system is affecting the eyes and is affected by the eyes. It's not just the eyes, it's the total nervous system. If you want your neck to be straight and you want enough blood to come to your head and not get strokes, and if you want to have a sense of well-being, then looking at a distance, looking at details, paying attention to the periphery, paying attention to the light can make a big difference. Another thing is, eye exercises are better than any Prozac against depression. If you are diligent with them and you get more light and you get more relaxation, visual relaxation. Some people say, and I don't believe it, but I tell you what I heard, that 25% of the oxygen comes to the retina. But I don't believe that, but I do believe that 25% of the oxygen comes to the sensory system. And so if you affect the sensory system, you affect your posture, you affect your body. You know, I'll never forget the lady, I'll talk from the opposite side, who came to me stooped, and she was born with high myopia, nearsightedness, and she was albino. And she was stooped. And I remember massaging her, straightening her. And in the third session, she told me, you know, it's the first time that I saw Alcatraz and Angel Island from the Golden Gate Bridge. And those are islands that were there all the time. And she took the bus 5 times a week because that's the only transportation she had. And she went off into the city. And she, first time after straightening her posture, was able to look. Opposite happens as well. I don't think that chiropractor or osteopath ever finish their work with people if they don't work on the senses as well. And I think that you return to the same problem and they don't understand why. You were straight and everything is good. But if your senses are not relaxed and are not working to their biggest extent, then your body will tense as well. So the whole nervous system relates to your vision. And I'll give anyone who runs understand that. If you look down, you will always stress to run, like your palm. You look, your pen, you know, like, ah. If you look far at a distance and you run to the distance that you're looking, your whole body will organize itself around this and the whole running becomes easier. Why? Your whole nervous system is relating to that. Because if you look down, your nervous system thinks that in 30 yards you should stop. But then you have to start again, look the next 30 yards. But if you look forwards, pay attention with your periphery to everything around you. But look forwards far, then running becomes easier.
Meir Schneider, you said something very profound. You said that eye exercises can relieve depression. I believe you said eye exercises are better than Prozac for relief.
Absolutely. Absolutely. First of all, there was an experiment that was made with depressed people, and they put light behind their knees. And people did not know when the light was shining. So they, sometimes in the middle of the sleep, at 2 o'clock in the morning, would turn on the light. And behind the knees, there's a lot of blood vessels. And they found that 2/3 of the people were less depressed as a result of it. And I think that one of the worst things we're being told these days is don't go outdoors because of the corona. Now, keep safe distance. I find myself not being 6 feet away. I find myself being 12 or 13 feet away from the next person. Don't go to crowded area, but go out. You need the light for your immune system, but also for your mind. And the more there is light, I mean, regularly before this corona, where there were massive suicide in Scandinavia, in Seattle, where there's always rain. I heard the joke that, what do you call the day after 2 days of rain in Seattle? Monday. So people's plans are being disrupted with the rain. Well, I actually love the rain. The other day, I ran just with my bathing suit in the ocean in the rain. Everybody already knows me in my neighborhood. But what I'm saying is that being in the light is so important. Relaxing your lens affects relaxing your neck. Relaxing your neck brings more blood to your head. More blood to your head is more oxygen. More oxygen is more optimism. You wouldn't believe how much optimism depends on oxygen. And you wouldn't believe how much you get more oxygen working on your eyes and, of course, on the rest of the body. I must say, before coming here, after running in the beach, by the way, I wanted to run to a certain point. I saw a crowd and I escaped that point, right? But I ran back here, and just these days, normally I don't escape crowd, but these days I do, because then you don't know where to find your space. But I ran back here, back to my home, and then I lie down and relaxed my body. And always after relaxing your eyes, you relax your body kinesthetically. How? By feeling different parts of my back, by feeling different parts of my pelvis, and pushing them gently against the floor. And then if you combine it with palming, putting the hands around the eyes, and of looking around on your ceiling, you start to really relax. And I want every audience which is at home to lie down, bend their knees, bring a knee to their chest, move the leg in rotating motion, and relax. Especially move it in and out. So you'd sense the stiffness that you have in your pelvis. And also do the palming we suggested, put a few pillows on the table or on a bed if you sit on the floor, and put the hands around your eye orbit, and then look around, and you're going to feel so much more relaxed being at home. Because some situations like the one of today, we can do very little about. But one thing that we can do is feel happy from within.
Mm. That's
Happiness is nothing that is given to you by life. I've met people who own a lot of wealth, and some of them are very depressed. Happiness has to do with the process within you. It doesn't have to do with anything that happens around you.
very, very well said. I couldn't agree more. And, we're talking about light, and I'm very blessed here in Atlanta because I'm 5 minutes from a park. I walk my dog every day. Dogs are great because you have to walk them. And I'm a big believer in therapeutic light boxes. There's a company here in the US, the Alaskan Northern Light Box. And
I believe in it too, by the way.
yeah. So I was going to ask your opinion about light boxes. I actually have two of them, and one in my office and one in the room where I do distant healing. How important do you think light boxes are for improving natural vision?
I think it's very important is that it affects the whole body and relaxes the eyes. And you still need to do the exercise of looking at details. You still need to do the exercise of improving your periphery. And it's very important to adjust to the sun as well. And so I believe in those boxes. There's a whole school of optometry called Syntonic. And some of my students, I myself am not knowledgeable there, but some of my students are. I refer people to them for Syntonic and looking at different light boxes. But I myself am a big believer in the sky and the sun. And many people in London don't always have the sun. But we have a wonderful skying exercise where you put your hand, one hand behind your head and one hand on your forehead, and you move your head from side to side and you blink. And then you put your finger in front of you and you move your whole body from side to side, and you think that the whole world moves opposite than you. And you look again at the sky and you blink. So there's a lot of things you can do when there is no sun. But I really want to tell you something, and this is that I don't exist here and you don't either. We're both guests of nature. And nature can work through us, and we should not block ourselves from whatever nature can give us, basically. And so I'm very happy that you're walking your dog, even in these times. I hope that you have also distancing from other people as you do that. Unfortunately, I'm a hugger, so I think it's nice to not have distance. And I can't wait for the moment that the distances will go away. But I think it's good that you're taking nature into your body and into your system. And the next part is to do kinesthetic awareness exercises, to be aware of your body's needs. And we sit too much. So walking is good. Lying on your back, rolling from side to side as you lie on your back is a great thing, providing that your abdomen is loose, and you can loosen it up by moving the abdomen up and down before you do it, or by contracting your sphincters like Kegel muscles. And I have specific exercise for that. And rolling from side to side is so important, because I even have a paralyzed patient that I always put her on the floor and get her to roll from side to side 10 times. And then she can stand better and move better. And so what I'm saying is rolling from side to side helps you use muscles you never used before. We need to know that we have more than 600 muscles. And most of us use between 50 and 75 of them. And we need to start and be aware of all the movements that we don't normally do. So for example, if you walk in the park, and if your dog is independent, or you can tie your dog, sometimes walking backwards is good. And so you can look to the right and look to the left to make sure that the space is available. It's also good for your neck to do that. But walking backwards, walking sideways is important. In my house, I have a nice hall, and often you see me running forwards, backwards, to start and use muscles I never used before. Another thing, these days that people are at home, it's very good for you to use your legs. Like, for example, lift your toes one by one lift your toes up and down, keep the heel on the ground. So if you lift your toes and keep the heels on the ground, you're starting to strengthen your shin muscles. You'll find that after doing it for 30, 40 times, most people find the shins painful. It's easy to undo it. You now lift the heels and keep the toes on the floor. So what I'm saying in terms of practical suggestions, learn about muscles you never knew. That's why I wrote my book, Awakening Your Power of Self-Healing. I'm with you all the way through your breathing, through your circulation, through movement. Learn about what you never knew existed for you and start and use it.
Meir Schneider, final thoughts for our audience. You have 48 years of experience in natural vision improvement. Any final thoughts for our audience?
As I mentioned throughout the interview, eye problems are going to hit us like a freight train. You manage to have pretty good eyes. I hope you listen to my advice and work on your eyes further, and at least not increase your diopters, strengthen your eyes, not have cataract, not need medical treatment for the next 50 years. I hope that's going to be the case with you. But what happens is, because we ignore our eyes and we tense them on a regular basis, many people will suffer for it. Now is the time to work. And if we learn to relax the eyes, adapt them to strong light, we learn to open up our periphery, learn to look at the distance, we will improve a lot. At the same time, if we learn to use muscles we never used before, we will change the body. I'm telling you because I got so many people out of the wheelchair, and it is by using the body in a whole new way. And the new way is learning what's within us. So my big message is breathe slowly and deeply, in and out through the nose, relax, and start to work on yourself diligently.
You've been listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Now, our guest today has been Meir Schneider, world famous expert in natural vision improvement. You can find out more about Meir and his profound work at selfhealing.org. And thanks so much for listening. And remember, when you take time to practice eye exercises, you relax your entire nervous system and heal your mind-body system. We'll see you next time.